Hi, Roy here. I thought I'd pop in and talk about July, how I'm progressing with various reading events in this turned out to be a very hot month. So, there's a lot of them. You got your Private Eye July, Jane Austen July, Rocket Summer, Summer of Trek. So, I'm trying to do a buddy read of Nancy Drew as well. There's a lot going on. It's a bit confusing, really. I mean, I think maybe the idea of an event is it gives a kind of flavour to a month, you know, a sort of inflection to reading throughout that month. So when there's lots of them, it's like, which universe am I in? Am I at some kind of Regency ball with private eyes sneaking around and the cast of Star Trek agonising about the Prime Directive and whether they should interfere, with kind of astronauts and mutants and mad scientists from the world of classic sci-fi? Yeah. So lots of stuff, but it's fun too. Well, Private Eye July, I'm a co-host there. That's an event created by Jim at Mystery and Mayhem. Month full of private eye fiction, and that's getting its own videos, which I'll try and be diligent about being a co-host. So briefly, I've read a really good book about a character called Nero Wolfe. Yes, so Rex Stout has a series detective called Nero Wolfe, and never read him before. Seems excellent, so really enjoyed that. And then read a fun, summary Hollywood detective PI story where the hero's name is Shell Scott by Richard S. Prather. And also a juvenile detective short story about a character called Sylvia Silence. So all of that's in its own video, and I'll be moving on to the next sort of period. So there's a couple of prompts there that go in sort of time periods when private eye fiction was around. So that's good. I'm really enjoying that, and particularly as it's kind of, you know, it's done something that events do, which is draw me back into something I sort of like, but just haven't happened to read any private eye stories for a long time. So that's good. Next, Rocket Summer is Michael K Vaughan's event about classic science fiction, with prompts again that go by time periods. And I've not done a TBR for this, or even a sort of possibilities, or even mentioned it at all, because I wasn't sure I'd managed to do anything, given all the others that are going on. But, you know, short stories are a possibility for science fiction, and in fact you could say short stories are like the lifeblood of science fiction. So far I've read a story called A Martian Odyssey by Stanley G. Weinbaum, and that's the title story in this collection. Really good. I mean, I've not read it before, so that's sort of it's an early 30s story, so it fits the first prompt, which could be from the beginning of time through the 1930s. And yeah, I guess I'm hoping to do more Rocket Summer reading. If I do, I'll come back and round it all up when I've done more. I've got some analog magazines, or collections from Analog magazine, which goes through all of those decades and has loads of classic SF in it. So, but also want to read more of this author, Stanley G. Weinbaum. I mean, briefly, it's set on Mars, and it's wild, and it's really, what's good about it is it's got alien creatures who are alien beings who are completely different to human beings. It's not just like, you know, bipeds with green heads or something. They're like the whole basis of their existence is very different, and it's how do you communicate and things like that. And it's just got a really exuberant sense of discovery about it too. So I'm tempted to just read the rest of this book, actually. The other stories are called The Adaptive Ultimate, The Lotus Eaters, Proteus Island, and The Brink of Infinity. And this lovely collection is an old Lancer paperback, but they're on the sort of etheric pixel machine as well. So yeah, Rocket Summer, hoping to hang in there if only with short stories. Still in the world of science fiction, it is Summer of Trek, an event I've not managed to do before. Let me grab some books to wave. So I had the idea of reading a bunch of Star Trek firsts. So the first novel, the Star Trek in print, first novel was this Mission to Horatius. Lovely old hardback. This is a facsimile. So this was the first book. It's a juvenile, but it's really interesting. Lots of cool stuff happens. And again, I will do a Star Trek video where I go into more depth about all of these books. But despite its kind of juvenile status, it's certainly well worth reading. Really enjoyed that. Yeah, who republished it? It's authorised by everybody you'd want to be authorising a book. Fabulous end papers. It's by Mac Reynolds, who I think also shows up in my analogue magazine, so there's a little trail I could follow there. And this was a present for Jen, not my Jen, a Jen, to celebrate your success in your SATs. Well, we never had SATs. O-levels. Celebrate your success in your SATs. Well done, Auntie Carol and Uncle Mick. August 99. So well done, Jen, on those SATs. And yeah, Mission to Horatius, that was a good one. But the first adult novel, so the first original Star Trek story for adults that wasn't an adaptation of an episode, was this Spock Must Die by James Blish. So James Blish, established science fiction writer, he had written adaptations of episodes which I read as a child, and here he's off the leash using the characters for his own story. And I've talked about this before in a different context because it's got a weird connection to Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce, subject to loads of other weird adventures I've had this year. But yeah, this is an entertaining story as well. Transporter accident, duplicate Spocks, one good, one evil. So interesting premise, enjoyed that. I did read the first of the James Blish episode adaptations as well. I've also read the first movie adaptation. So the movie came out in 1980, 79? Star Trek The Motion Picture. The novel is Gene Roddenberry's name on the front. There's debate about who actually wrote it. I kind of don't think that is particularly important really, but this is interesting. It sort of gives a lot of things that don't happen in the film, or sort of lots of background to the film. It's drenched with sex, my god. I mean, I know the original series had its kind of racy moments, but this sort of like parts of it read as if it was thought up over drinks at the Playboy Mansion. But good stuff too. And actually before that I'd read the comic book adaptation that Marvel did. Came out in kind of British annual type form over here. So that's two versions of that I've experienced. And then in the world of comics, I've been trying to look at the first comics that came out from Gold Key, and also these British comics that were really wild. So, I mean, one thing is they were so early, they were working from skimpy information about the characters, what they looked like, even what their names were, how stuff worked in the Star Trek universe. It's a little bit variant in the American comics. These ones, it's as if it's just based on rumour, at least to start with. So these are lots of fun as well. So I'll circle back to Star Trek when I've done a bit more. Currently doing a buddy read with Brandy Bookclectic and others of a Star Trek novel called Strangers from the Sky. So I'm enjoying that so far too. What fun! Meanwhile, Jane Austen July. Put on one of those lacy caps at this point. It's yeah, good. We're listening to Emma as an audiobook read by Juliet Stevenson. And she's a great reader. She's really bringing it to life. It's a novel I read before, and yeah, one I've really liked and probably seen various adaptations too. And so that's good. So that's the sort of prompt for read one of the 6 main novels. Just finished a story by Rudyard Kipling called The Janeites, about a Jane Austen society in the First World War that forms behind the trenches. And also reading Jane Austen at Home, Loosely Worsley. Loosely, she's loosely Worsley, not completely Worsley. Lucy Worsley, Jane Austen at Home, a biography that focuses on places where Jane Austen lived. It's really, really interesting about the times, about obviously her and her family, and kind of how people lived then. Really interesting. I recommend her Agatha Christie book as well. So, and there's other stuff to come from there. We're watching a Pride and Prejudice TV series from the 1980s. That's really good. The one that was adapted by Faye Weldon. What else? I'm sure there's more. Oh yeah, reading one of her Jane Austen's juvenile productions, A History of England, that she wrote presumably as a teenager, I guess. And what else? There's more. It's Jane Austen all the time. And we've watched not one but 2 Jane Austen themed movies on the Hallmark channel. So I've reactivated my subscription to Hallmark, which in the UK it's a very cut down version of the Hallmark you would get, say, in the US. So you get a bunch of movies, usually at least a year old, but that doesn't include their Jane Austen ones. So I'll be talking about those when I do a Jane Austen video.
What is happening? She's arrived!
Fall captive to a great story.
I'm stuck in Pride and Prejudice.
Every great love story
Jane, if only I could talk to you.
needs a plot twist.
Who are you? I think you know.
At some point. So I'm still hoping to do all of the prompts in that. So there's also a Georgette Heyer novel to read. So I'm basically not really following the schedule there. I thought I'd read Worsley, then get on to Heyer. Heya, heya. Yeah, so interesting really that there's sort of, if you add all those together, they're like popular fictional universes that people love to inhabit. Star Trek, obviously, it's sort of, I think that's almost where the fictional universe theme comes from, perhaps, or was it Marvel Comics? Anyway, yes, it's all interconnected. There's all sorts of lore and background and different takes, and fans are really invested in it. So much so you could say, that they're not doing that properly, even though they're the creator. They're the official creators, but we, the fans, feel we own it, perhaps slightly more than they do. That's not Spock. And that's obviously been going on a long time. My Star Trek firsts are interesting because that's like the roots of that, something that's expanded to be in this world you can just slip into any old time. And you could say the same about Jane Austen. I mean, there's some great videos about the sort of Jane Austen in pop culture. I was just looking at one that Claudia SpinstersLibrary made about the sort of pop culture and merchandise life of Jane Austen. It's just amazing, and weird things like those Hallmark movies that are on one level ridiculous, on the other hand they're still sort of part of that world. So yes, Austenland is one of those things too. The world of the private eye, I suppose there, if you're looking at the sort of core texts and movies, you've got the great American cities, you've got time periods, you've got again a kind of a shared world. We all sort of know what a private eye office looks like, with the glass door with the name on it and stuff like that. And if you had half an hour to write a 2-minute comedy sketch with a private eye in it with no explanation, the audience have got to understand that it's a private eye straight away. You'd be thinking maybe trench coats and fedoras and stuff like that. So there's kind of a world there, but also just not just what the archetypal character is like, but what the sort of things they do, the way they move around and get into different social settings and things like that. And so much so you can have complete variant types of private eye, and it's still in the private eye type of world, I would argue. Classic SF, I guess, is more diverse, more diffused, but again, you sort of know it when you see it. Calling it Rocket Summer was just amazing, because it's so evocative as a name for not just the idea of space flight as being this magical thing, not something done by annoying billionaires, but something that's like aspirational and adventurous and new frontierish. And summer as well, to me, it's you imagine you could be lying in a hammock reading Ray Bradbury, Dandelion Wine or something like that. Yeah, and there's joy in all of those, though they're very different. Not saying they're kind of all merged together as the same thing, but just that they share that kind of, it's a big world you can get into. Okay, that's my sermon for this week, and that's how I'm dealing with the crowded July. It's all for fun, none of this is any kind of hard work. If I wanted to just drop a strand, I'd happily do that. But at the moment, I'm enjoying riding 4 horses at once. Okay, back soon with something else.
Mr. Sulu. Mr. Sulu. Take Lieutenant Ilea in hand.
Sir? Yes, of course.